What's going on, YouTube? This is SG1 Sports, and you're watching our college football channel. It's time for my 5 takeaways from Week 7 of the 2022 college football season. What a weekend it was! This was an exciting weekend in college football. I talked about it coming into this weekend, that this was kind of that separation Saturday where we learn a lot about these teams, some of these teams at the top, and we definitely did that. We definitely learned about some of the top 10 teams this week, and that's really going to be a big part of my takeaway. So we'll start with number 1. Tennessee is a playoff contender. I think Tennessee proved that with a win over Alabama. And it's not just that. You look at the rest of the schedule. If they don't beat Georgia, and they're going to be underdogs in Athens, I'm sure, but if they don't beat Georgia, you look at the rest of their schedule, and they're in a really good position to win the rest of their games. They could be sitting 11-1 at the end of the season. And with a win over Alabama, I think you definitely would have to talk about Tennessee in that playoff conversation. They might need some help. They might need Georgia to beat Alabama in the SEC championship, and some other things may have to happen. But they're definitely contenders, and I'm not going to say that they can't beat Georgia. I'd probably still take Georgia in that game because it's in Athens. But Tennessee, with their offense, they're going to have a shot in that game. And so, yeah, Tennessee is a team you have to start really looking at as a team that might be in the playoff at the end of the season. For Alabama, I think they still control their own destiny. They went out. They're going to go to the SEC championship. If they win that game, they're going to go to the playoff. So for Alabama, they're still a playoff contender as well. But Tennessee, I think, proved that they are legit, even with some cornerbacks out in this game, some injuries, without their best wide receiver. They still were able to beat Alabama. Now, Alabama made a lot of mistakes, and you can point to all those penalties and everything and say, well, if Alabama doesn't play so poorly, they win this game. Well, remember, Tennessee handed them a touchdown. I mean, they literally just dropped the ball on the ground and said, here's 6 points or 7 points. So, yeah, Tennessee didn't play perfect either, and they still were able to win this game. So, hats off to them. Big-time win, and we'll see at the end of the year if they could possibly be in the college football playoff. Number 2, Michigan, they're not just a playoff contender. They are a championship contender. This Michigan team, I now believe, after seeing this game against Penn State, I now believe that they could possibly win it all this year. Not saying I'm going to pick them to win it all, but they're a contender, and that's just something that I didn't know for sure before we saw them play a great team. And the reason why I say this is because they are able to run the football against a really good defense in Penn State. And now you have J.J. McCarthy who can throw it, and he can run it as well. This offense is just so much better than last year's offense, and the defense is playing lights out as well. So you're getting the defense from last year, and I know they lost some great players, but as a whole unit, this defense might be even better than last year's defense. If not, it's still a really good defense. And you're talking about an offense that is even better than last year. The offensive line, I believe, is better. These running backs, this 1-2 punch, probably the best in the country and definitely up there near the top. They've got receivers with a lot of speed. They've got playmakers, and they've got a quarterback who can air it out, can make plays with his feet if he needs to. This Michigan team really has it all. I think they've just kind of been conservative this season. They haven't really opened it up a ton, but when they need to, you see what they can do, and they really, just the way they ran the ball against this Penn State defense, that's what impressed me. If they can run it against them, there's no reason to think they can't run it against some of the other top teams, the teams that they might play in the playoff, at least to a decent level of success. I'm not saying they're going to run it like they did against Penn State, but just to have some success in the run game. And now you've got a very talented quarterback back there. I just think Michigan is a team that could win it all. I really do. Maybe I'm overreacting to this one game. The game was not really, it wasn't even as close as the score would suggest either, because Penn State had the 1 pick six on the tip pass. The offense was really, they had the 1 run by Clifford and the 1 long pass. That was about it. I mean, Michigan dominated this game. And so this is a team that I think we have to start really looking at as a team that could maybe win a national championship this season. Number 3, TCU, now the team to beat in the Big 12. A huge win over Oklahoma State. I picked TCU in this game, but if you watched it, you felt like Oklahoma State was the better team for the most part, and TCU just kept fighting, kept fighting in this game and found a way to win it in overtime. What a comeback, what a gutsy performance from TCU. Max Duggan didn't play great early, but he played a lot better in the second half. And like I said, they just found a way to win this game. And they're now the team to beat in the Big 12. This team is undefeated, Kansas State also undefeated in the conference. They're about to play. That is a huge game. Didn't think we would say TCU versus Kansas State for first place in the Big 12, but that's exactly what we're going to get. Texas didn't look great against Iowa State. Oklahoma State, now they have a loss. Baylor, they're pretty much out of it. They lost to West Virginia. And so TCU now looks like they might be the best team in the Big 12. After I just thought maybe Texas had turned that corner and maybe Texas was the team to beat. And now it looks like it might be TCU. Oklahoma State definitely still in that race. We could see a rematch between these two teams. Kansas State is there. I think we can probably forget about Kansas. It was fun while it lasted, but they're probably not going to make it to the Big 12 championship. Oklahoma's not going to make it. Iowa State's not going to make it. West Virginia. So you're starting to see this thing narrow down, but TCU, they are the team to beat right now, and we'll see if that continues. If they can beat Kansas State, then they are in the driver's seat for sure. Number 4, Utah is back in the Pac-12 race. This game was more about Utah than it was USC for me. USC is still in good shape. If they can win out, they have a schedule that's going to give them a good chance to win out and get to the Pac-12 championship. So I think USC is still in good shape. I thought that this was going to be a tough one for them on the road, emotional night, a very good Utah team. I did pick Utah to win this game, so I'm not surprised by the outcome. And like I said, USC is still a really good team, and they can still do a lot of big things this year. They're not even out of the playoff race. But Utah, if they lost this game, they weren't going to the Pac-12 championship. I just don't think it was going to happen. That would have been 2 conference losses. When you've got a conference with 4 teams that are going to be right there at the top with maybe 1 loss, maybe even undefeated, UCLA, Oregon, USC, Utah, this was a game that they had to win, and they found a way to get it done. They were behind, came back, gutsy performance by them, a big-time win for Utah, and this Utah team now is a team that could be where we thought they were going to be. They could be in that Pac-12 championship game at the end of the season. So very impressed with Utah and their win. That crowd was crazy. This was a great environment. This environment, you had that Tennessee game. I mean, there were some great environments this weekend. Let's go to number 5, and that's Illinois versus Purdue. Though that matchup may decide the Big Ten West. So I've already been talking about Purdue and how they have a really good schedule. It all sets up for them. That's why I picked them in the preseason to win the West, and it's why I still have them winning the West. But Illinois, this takeaway is really more about Illinois. Illinois proved that they are legit. This is a good football team. And I had my doubts. You know, they did lose to Indiana. Knew they had a good defense. Knew they were able to run the football. But they're a good team. They're a really good team. They are legitimately a top 25 team. Tommy DeVito coming back at quarterback was big. I didn't realize he was coming back. I did pick Minnesota to win this game. But yeah, he played pretty solid in this game. The run game is there for them. The defense is really, really good. And you look at the schedule for Illinois now. They have Michigan on the road. That'll be a tough game. Let's say they don't win that game. You look at the rest of the schedule. Nebraska on the road, Michigan State, Purdue, and at Northwestern. That schedule now looks manageable. I mean, Michigan State's struggling. Nebraska's not very good this year. Northwestern's been awful. So then that leaves the game against Purdue. That game, more than likely, is going to decide the Big Ten West. How crazy is that? Who would have thought in the preseason that Purdue versus Illinois in November would decide the Big Ten West? And that seems how we're headed. Minnesota loses again. Nebraska loses to Purdue. They've got another loss. Iowa and Wisconsin continue to. Wisconsin just lost again. You know, you don't really see any team emerging other than Illinois or Purdue. And they're going to have that showdown on November 12th, and it's going to be a huge game as far as the Big Ten West is concerned. And I do believe right now that game will determine the division and determine who goes on to the Big Ten Championship, which now looks like it's more interesting. Everyone thought it was going to be Ohio State in the East, but Michigan, I think they've got a legit chance to go on the road and beat Ohio State. That is going to be just a massive, massive game at the end of the season if no one gets upset before then. So yeah, you're going to have almost like a 4-team playoff in the Big Ten, where it'll be Ohio State versus Michigan, Illinois versus Purdue. The 2 winners go on to the Big Ten Championship. Things could change, but I'm just saying that's how it looks right now. So those are my takeaways from Week 7. What were your takeaways? What was the biggest thing you took away from this weekend? Let me know down in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for more here on the SG1 Sports College Football Channel.